Welcome inside the latest edition of the BRSN Insider, stay-at-home edition. Josh Pound, happy to be joined now by women's lacrosse head coach Amanda Magee. And Coach, we joked, I think, the day we found out that, the season was going to be completely canceled, that the only thing that has kept your program from winning their fifth consecutive KCAC title was COVID-19. It's good to see that we can still laugh about that, but it probably took some time for you and the girls to kind of have things settle in and soak in for you. But you were having a pretty good start to your season, 2-0 in the KCAC. The only bad thing I think you could probably say, or the negative taste in your mouth, would be that the last time you guys took the field was a tough loss to another nationally ranked opponent. But overall, you had to feel pretty good about the way the trajectory of the season was going.
Yeah, we were definitely feeling good about how we were progressing for sure. Like you said, we were 2-0 in the KCAC, and then we played some really, really talented nationally ranked teams, so SCAD and University of the Cumberlands. I think for the ladies on the team and myself, we're not used to losing. So it definitely – it's not the way we would have preferred to end the 2020 season for sure. But looking back on it now, I'm so thankful we were able to get that spring break trip in, because we had so much quality time together. We were on the road a ton, in the hotel room, dinners all out together. They didn't have to worry about school. So it was a major blessing that we got to have that time together. A lot of teams didn't get to do that. Some teams didn't even get any games in. So I'm so happy we were able to go down to Kentucky, and I'm glad the seniors got to experience one more big road trip to end it for them.
And then obviously, as you mentioned, coming back off of spring break, things moved pretty rapidly. We went from a suspension on a Friday to then by, I think, Monday afternoon after the weekend that the whole spring season had been canceled. Just talk about, how that transition went for you and the girls.
It was pretty crazy. So we're driving home from Kentucky, and we stopped halfway in St. Louis, and we were able to stay at one of the girls on our teams. We stayed at her house. So that was nice too. We all kind of got to be together. And then of course, I'm getting calls from Coach Blaze and some of the other women's lacrosse coaches, and everybody is just kind of like, what's going on here? A lot of just, theories and rumors swirling around for sure. And then, we're continuing to drive. So I'm driving that Ram bus, and I've got Lizzie and Hanson on the Twitter, kind of scrolling through things and just getting those updates as they were coming. And then I will say we also were very lucky that we got this news when we were all together, because I know a lot of teams, they were not able to kind of have that closure there. So we had a team meeting on, I believe this was Saturday, and that's when things were still in that postponement phase. So we were at least a little bit able to have that closure. And I know the girls knew that it was going to be happening pretty soon down the pipeline, of that they were going to cancel. And it was just the NAI was kind of waiting to have their final meeting on that Monday morning, like you said. So we were very lucky that we were able to all be together and kind of share in the news. I will say that's probably the hardest thing I've had to tell them. That's probably the hardest conversation we've had to have in these 5 years of having a program. But I'm glad we were all together to have it.
So once you guys get home, things kind of settle down. Everybody kind of, packs up and heads their separate ways. How long did you give them, maybe before you kind of checked back in, as a team? And then how often, are you guys doing things, through social media or through Zoom or whatever platform it is? How often are you touching base with the team?
So we meet as a team once a week via Zoom. And what we used to do during this whole year, we used to do these things called Personal Growth Mondays. So now they've turned into PGT, so Personal Growth Tuesdays. And, we have like a range of topics. Obviously, we did one on Kobe after his passing. And it's really just for us about personal growth, and maybe a story is really hit home with a certain player, and we encourage them to kind of come forward with topics that they want to speak about. So last night we were talking about the difference between, like, would you rather a good job or there's another level, like you can do better. So that kind of criticism and that positive reinforcement. So yeah, we talk once a week, and then of course we're texting, we're sending videos all day long. That Marco Polo app has been great for us. We're on that group message. And the seniors are super funny, so they're all worried. They're like, are we going to get kicked out? Are you kicking us out of the group chat? But, I still consider them. They're still part of the team until they officially graduate. So they're locked in for a couple more weeks, that's for sure. And then, that June 1, that's kind of when we'll start talking about next year and those new recruits and all that stuff.
We obviously touched on your seniors, and it's, the NAI, the nice thing that the NAI did was they just blanket gave every spring sport athlete 2 extra semesters of competition. So, it's a nice thing to, as a coach, to be able to sit there and say, hey, seniors, you have the opportunity to come back, but obviously at our level, it's not quite that simple. People have things lined up for after graduation already. People are done with school, so they'd have to figure out a way to maybe get another degree or another minor or whatever it would be. And we've already, internally, we know all 5 of your seniors have made the decision to move on. So just talk about what those 5 have meant to you and the program in their time here at Benedictine.
I mean, I will definitely be lying to you if I said I didn't. First thing that came to my mind when they said that, oh my gosh, yes, they're all coming back. Of course, but the 5 of them, what's so impressive is that they do all have plans already for after graduation. Graduate school, an accelerated nursing program, jobs lined up, California, big moves for them for sure. So I know they are all still excited about what is next after Benedictine. But the 5 of them, I mean, it's hard to put into words how much they have done for myself personally and what they've done for this team as a whole. They were really the first group that immediately bought in before we had anything. So any, major success, national rankings, whatever, they just wanted to be a part of something, and they wanted to work hard. And it's such a blessing to have had the time with them, to have 4 years. And I wish we were able to give them, that true senior day that they deserve so much. So I'm hopeful and looking forward to, hopefully sometime in first semester, maybe over homecoming, that we can have something for them with their families and the rest of our team too, just because they're just such an incredible group of young women, and their leadership is a massive part of why we have been so successful.
Well, before we kind of start talking about you and your philosophies as coaching, 5 years, young program, but the success that you've had when you came out to the Midwest and were hired to be the first ever women's lacrosse head coach at Benedictine, if I'd have told you 5 years from now, you'd be a traditional top 5 in the NAI. You'd have played, in a national title game. That you'd knocked off 3 or 4 nationally ranked teams through the course of one season. What would you have said to me?
You're absolutely crazy. I will be honest. I think I was super naive when I moved out here, and probably in a good way, because I was just so excited for the opportunity, and I was shocked at the sense of community around here and how it made my job so much easier. There were so many people that I could go to with any questions. I needed advice. Maybe I was homesick. There were so many people when I first got here that immediately took me under their wing and treated me like family. And I think that is what's so special about this place. And I think that is also a huge reason why we have been so successful. Like, it's not just me, it's not just the girls on the team, it's this entire place, and it's just so special.
So now we get out an opportunity, as we've said, we don't often get to talk to just you as a coach and as a person and learn a little bit about you and your philosophies and things, because we're too busy focusing on, how'd that game go? What's this game going to look like? You've been in a unique situation in the sense that you've come in, you've had a clean slate. You did inherit, a certain number of club lacrosse players, but you've had the opportunity to build a program from scratch. And then you've made it into a successful program. So I guess the first thing that I'd like to, hear you talk about is, what was that like? What were the hurdles that you had to come, or was it a smooth, journey from A to Z as what we've seen just on the outside looking at the success? Or, did you have to kind of relearn some things, or were there some things that you just didn't anticipate that you're glad that you've experienced and that's made you better as a coach?
I think, I haven't had to do it the other way. So I don't know what it's like maybe coming into a program that's been around for 10 years, 15 years, what have you. But I think it was pretty easy, if I'm being totally honest. Oh gosh. But I don't know if it was easy in a sense of the girls on the team, they didn't have any preconceived notions. So it was like automatically, these are my expectations, and like, this is what we have to do. And there really wasn't much pushback for that, because I think they were so excited and so hungry to have a coach and to have structure and to be taken seriously. So it was, I'd say that first year, and with myself, I try and think about that first year, and I don't have a ton of memories, because I feel like it was just, I was like a little hamster on the wheel, just like, okay, we got one more day of practice. Now we got our first game. Now we got to do this. We got to order uniforms. We're talking to recruits, whatever. So, obviously I think back and I'm like, oh my gosh, it was so much fun. But it's hard to think about like major issues or major challenges. And I guess I'm the type of person always too, I kind of forget the bad stuff anyway. You look back on things and you think about all the good times you shared with each other. But I think it's such a unique opportunity, and I absolutely love building a program. I think it's so much fun, and don't get me wrong, it is a ton of work for sure, but I think it's so rewarding. And to be able to see like those first couple years and where we started to where we are now, it's been incredible.
Well, obviously, you and our program have been a big part in helping grow the game of lacrosse, women's lacrosse at the NAI level, but also just talk about, what kind of things you're involved with within, the Midwest, lacrosse community. I mean, I know I've started kind of pay attention a little bit more. It seems to me that every year there's more and more high school programs in the Kansas City area. Now it seems like Wichita has kind of started to set on. How does that make your life maybe a little bit easier from a recruiting standpoint, to know that you've got some potential recruits that are going to be basically in your backyard, and you don't have to recruit nationally maybe as much as you had to from the start?
It's so cool to see, as somebody who's from New Jersey, and lacrosse is like soccer out here. So it's just what you do when you're second, third, fourth grade. It's so cool to see the growth. And I love being able to give back to a sport that has given me so much. And I think just in the past 4 years, Kansas City alone has had like 5 new high school programs that have started. And these kids are incredible athletes. And I love a Midwest kid because they have no attitude. And, they're just putting their head down and they're going to work. And it's, yes, coach. And can I help you, coach? Thank you, coach. Things like that. Whereas I can say this because I am a coach. You might have a little more of an attitude-y Judy. from somebody out east. So it's super refreshing, and I love to see the growth so much, and I hope there's more of it. It's got to start at the youth level for sure, and I know they are really working hard with starting that. Obviously, it's a little bit more expensive, so you kind of have to deal with those situations, and then you have to have coaches who know what they're talking about. But it's really exciting to see, and I hope and pray that it's just going to continue.
Well, and stylistically, and I think we saw it last year in the national tournament, and we've seen it when you've played other schools from different regions of the country. Midwestern lacrosse doesn't necessarily, especially women's lacrosse, doesn't necessarily look like traditional women's lacrosse on the East Coast.
Mm-hmm.
Is that just the nature of the athletes that are playing the game, or is it just the nature of, hey, this is the Midwest and this is how we're going to play it?
I think it's a little mixture of both. I think like that Midwest attitude too is like, I'm going to go in there and kind of like bang you around a little bit. And I like that. I love how aggressive our girls play. And if I'll give them something, it's that they are tough. And they fall on that ground and they are popping right back up. And I think that has a lot to do with the Midwest upbringing, and maybe a little chip on your shoulder too of, hey, I didn't start playing lacrosse since 4th grade. I've only been playing for 4 years, and I'm still going to mess you up on the field. So yeah, I love that attitude for sure. And I'd say maybe the East Coast girls, it's a little bit more sort of what we call it's like ballet. So it's a little more fluid. It's a little bit more delicate, but no disrespect for them. They're incredible athletes for sure too.
Do you see, and obviously from your time as a player and your time now as a coach, do you see that the rules maybe are adjusting a little bit to, and I've joked that, listen, all you got to do is look at the uniform to know what kind of sport they expect this to be. Obviously the rules of the game are not expected to be nearly as physical as what the guys' game is. But have you seen things kind of start to adapt and change to maybe be a little bit more open to a little bit more physical play in the women's game than maybe was even when you were a player?
Oh, absolutely. It's crazy how much the rules have changed since I played. I mean, when I played, we didn't have boundary lines. So it was just like the field could be massive. It was crazy. I think about it now. But yeah, it's also interesting. We've gone down to Kentucky and we played some games this year, and the difference of the referees and how much they let go in those certain games, and we're closer to the East Coast too. So I definitely think it's a little bit of a different mentality. And like I said before, I like the more aggressive play. I'm definitely all about just let them play. The less whistles in my eyes, in my book, the better, because you get more whistles, it stops the flow of the game, stops the momentum, all of that. So I love that more physical aspect of the game for sure.
Well, now that we've kind of talked a little bit about that, 5 years in, first time head coach when you started out here at Benedictine, what are some of the things that you've used to kind of help build your philosophy as a head coach, and some of the things that you've used to build your team culture and create the success off the field as well as on the field that you guys have been able to have?
I think I am a mixture of probably all of the coaches that I have had and I've gotten a chance to work with. And like a lot of people, I was lucky enough that my first coach was my dad. So he was a Division I soccer player and super, super competitive. And I think I fell in love with competition from him. And he was the first one who was like, we don't quit. Like, you might be tired. I don't care. Get in that car. Like we're getting this done. And, I think back on certain things now in my life. I'm like, okay, yes, this is why I am how I am. If we're outside, we're playing a game, we're playing basketball, we're playing rundown, whatever. I'm like, we're not stopping unless I end on a good one. Like, absolutely not. So it's interesting. I have practice and I'm like, girls, we're not done until we end on a good one. I'm like, wow, this is where this is all coming from. And then my high school coach, he was a football coach as well. So he coached our high school football team, and then he was our women's lacrosse coach. And he was just so tough, but also for him, hard work and fun were not mutually exclusive. And I loved that mentality. And that's really when I fell in love with lacrosse and really the whole process. So, practice, lifts, getting ready for game time, all of that. And I think that was, he was probably, the shift and my biggest mentor when I look back at it now and I have some time to reflect on these things. He was probably the biggest person who I kind of use for a lot of things that I think about. And then my college coaches, I was super lucky. That was the first time I was coached by women. So it was amazing to be able to see that, these women could be successful and to start to think, maybe I could do this, this could maybe be something for me. This could maybe be something I might be good at. And they would always push myself and my teammates to just go for it. And one of them, this is like probably my favorite quote of life. She always said, if you're going to be a bear, be a grizzly. And I always think about that. And no matter what, kind of with anything I'm doing, just to go for it. And so what if you mess up? It's not the end of the world. So I like to think I take a little bit from each of them. And honestly, we've just been so lucky with the girls who have decided to come here. And they are such a driving force of our culture. And they just have so much love and respect for each other. So like love for what we're doing and love for who we're doing it with. And then respect for the game and also the opportunity that they are being given to represent Benedictine and to be a collegiate athlete. Doesn't happen for everybody. And I do really feel like they take that serious. That's not easy. People are just there maybe to just hang out and have fun again. And I love that they protect that so fiercely.
You had mentioned that, your high school coach was also a football coach. Your dad was your first coach and he's a soccer coach. And then you finally get, into college and have, strong female leaders as your coaches. What are are there coaches of other sports that you've kind of looked at and read about, or even coaches that you've reached out to and had conversations with to kind of say, hey, I see you did this, and I want to see how that can translate to my sport?
I think we're so lucky that coaching is like so fluid and you can steal things from all different sports. I just recently read the book 11 Rings by Phil Jackson. And so interesting now, they're having that documentary on ESPN. Thank God. I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to support. I'm losing my mind. But he is such like an interesting character, and his coaching philosophy really kind of changed my outlook on some things. And he's like very Zen, very into meditation, all of that stuff, which I thought was interesting for somebody who is highly competitive and like very successful. And he's just very like cool, calm, and collected. And I like that too. Hopefully my girls would say I'm cool, calm, and collected during game time. I'd like to think so sometimes. But yeah, I'm a big reader, especially now. We've got a ton of time to do it. So it's a great opportunity to learn things from other people for sure.
All right. Well, Amanda, I want to thank you for taking the time to visit with us today. Obviously, under different circumstances than we normally would. We'd normally be sitting side by side in the studio talking about the next game coming up. Actually, I think if I try not to look at my calendar too much, but if the calendar has told me, I do believe we're probably into at least the KCAC postseason at this point. At least we should have been. So I know that's probably maybe a little bit more difficult time for you personally, because you got that competitive juice and want to get the girls out there. But stay healthy, stay safe, and Lord willing, we'll be back in the fall, and you get ready to go for that next season at Benedictine.
Thanks, Josh. Looking forward to it.
All right. Thanks, Amanda.